We don't even know where Kamala Harris is. JD Vance was just down there in North Carolina having a whole conversation saying, hey, listen, I know that y'all see them giving billions of dollars over there to Africa, but guess what? We didn't forget you. We didn't forget you. Hold on, let me see if I can see that, find that.
Been different. I'm going to be very nice because we don't have to get into an argument over 2020. But had the election been different, the result been different, we would have had China giving the maximum penalty, which is the penalty of death, to people that sent fentanyl into this country. But Biden didn't, unfortunately, finish that discussion up. I had an agreement with President Xi, who I got along with very well. We've had communication as recently as this week. And I had communication with him where they were going to give the death penalty to anybody sending drugs into the United States.
This week you had that conversation.
Check this out. I want to switch over real quick. We're gonna pivot because I had something else, but I'll save it for tomorrow. I want to show you something real quick. Check this out.
Tom, yeah, where did you go? Okay, gone. All right. Well, thank you all. It's good to see you. I'm, of course, happy to be joined by my friends and colleagues, Tom Tillis, Ted Budd, and Shelley Moore Capito. And look, they're all doing as well as they can, as much as they can to make sure that, I think in Shelley's case, Appalachia is prepared for, God forbid, the next storm. But for Tom and Ted to make sure that we deal with what happened. I mean, I wanted to come down here for a few reasons. Number one, just my simple message to the people of Appalachia is that we haven't forgotten you. We love you. We want you to have the best Christmas that you possibly can have, despite the circumstances. And I know that a lot of people in this neck of the woods feel left behind and forgotten. I just wanted to make them feel that their government leaders actually care about them, because we do. And certainly when this administration changes hands in the next 45 days, we're going to do everything that we can to help people rebuild, to get them back on their feet, to bring some commerce back to this area, but most importantly, to allow people to live in their homes and do what they need to do. I think there are a couple of very immediate concerns, things that we're worried about. One is, of course, that because so many people live in effectively a designated floodplain, Ted and Tom have done some really important work to try to get the Biden administration, to try to get FEMA to actually provide the waiver necessary so that people can actually live in mobile homes in places that have been designated as flood areas. If you don't do that, you're not going to allow people to actually be able to celebrate Christmas around their families. We need to make that happen. These guys have done good work. They've started the Biden administration to actually respond to this request and allow us to get the residences and the homes that just on a temporary basis in the areas that have been designated floodplains. If you don't do that, there isn't a non-floodplain where you can actually put people. You've got to be able to get the at least temporary and medium-term housing. The second thing that I take away from this visit is that we have really got to do a better job when it comes to communications infrastructure in this country. It is frankly a disgrace, given that we have Starlink, given that we have access to modern technology, that we have unable to communicate with law enforcement, with EMS services, and with their loved ones weeks after this storm hit. And one of the things that we're going to focus on in the next administration is to make sure that our communications infrastructure is in a place that if, God forbid, another area like this is affected by the storm, at least we have the communication in place to minimize the damage and to allow people to communicate with the people that they love. So, look, I've seen a lot of good here. I've seen a lot of people, the best spirit in the world, the best human beings in the world. They've had a lot of loss of life. They've had a lot of lives and possessions, but they're rebuilding. They love their communities, and we love their communities too, and we're going to try to help them.
Now, my question then becomes, as JD Vance, before they even take office in January, is on the ground in North Carolina. They give him billions of dollars over there to Angola. They just gave Zelensky another round of funding. They are funding these wars. They launching missiles in Syria. JD Vance is on the ground. We trying to figure out where Kamala Harris is. We're trying to figure out where is Biden and where is Kamala Harris, and why are they not hearing from the leadership that's currently in office right now? Trump is managing different countries. He's meeting with world leaders. He was just over there in Paris. Right? Meeting with Zelensky, having conversations with Xi Jinping, talking to Putin on the phone, having Justin Trudeau come over from Canada and fly into Mar-a-Lago because he wants them to stop this trade deficit and stop these illegal migrants from coming into this country. Having conversations with Claudia Sheinbaum and saying, listen, y'all operating at a $300 billion trade deficit. That's going to have to come down, and you're going to have to get these migrants, and you're going to have to stop these drugs. Going back and forth with China. What the hell is happening with the rest of the administration? With the people that's actually in office right now? We sitting here talking about Hunter Biden. The last week, The View and the rest of America was talking about Hunter Biden. J.D. Vance is on the ground in North Carolina helping people and reassuring them of what they're going to do and what instructions they need to take in order to ensure that they're able to be successful long term. Tell me that we didn't make the right decision. Tell me that we didn't make the right decision on electing him the president of the United States. The grown-ups is back. Grown folks is back in office. The adults are back. The kids, they tore up the house. They partied. You know what I'm saying? We let y'all have a little vacation, get out of hand. Things was bad. Okay, the adults is back in office. We gonna go ahead and get things taken care of. We gonna manage effectively. Y'all over here talking about stuff that don't even matter. Keep falling asleep in Angola. You in Angola falling asleep, getting confused at the G20?
Questions?
And he willing to take questions. And they willing to still pulling up on people like NBC's Meet the Press, still taking unscripted questions straight from the people.
Did you speak up? The cars are loud. Yeah.
You're here obviously to survey damage and show support for these families, but I wanted to get your an opportunity to ask you about Pete Hegseth. You posted about him this morning. Have you talked to Senator Ernst, and has she addressed any concerns with you? You and Trump both go to the full support. I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so look, guys, we're here to survey damage and provide support to the people of Western North Carolina, and make it clear that their government, and in particular our administration, is not going to forget them. And that's why we're here. I'll answer one question about Pete Hegseth because I know that's what people are focused on. Look, importantly, Pete Hegseth is going to get his appearing before the Senate Armed Services Committee, not a sham hearing before the American media. We believe that Pete Hegseth is the right guy to lead the Department of Defense. That's why President Trump nominated him. We're not abandoning this.
Eric D., just admit it. Just admit it, Eric. We got the adults back in office. You keep saying we will see. No, the adults is back in office.
Nomination. We're not going to make it easy for people to allow them. Our Secretary of Defense is Donald J. Trump, who just won an election by a very significant consent of the United States Senate. That's who determines who the Secretary of Defense is. I fully support Pete. I think Pete's going to get confirmed, and we are completely behind him. I have talked to Joni. I've talked to a number of my colleagues about this nomination and about other nominations. All I'm asking is that people actually allow the Senate process to work. We do not determine important government officials based on anonymous sourcing from the American media. We determine who our officials are through the nomination process, the advice and consent process of the United States Senate. That's how it should happen, and that's how the president's nominees are going to work through this process.
The adults is back in office. I can't wait to vote for J.D. Vance. I can't wait to vote for J.D. Vance for president of the United States of America. If he's not presidential, look at the difference between him and Cam. Kamala Harris literally just did a speech right alongside Obama over the last weekend, and nobody cared. All of a sudden, she's not popular anymore. Right after she did her little drunk speech and she went off on her little tangent and stuff like that, for some reason, nobody is checking for Kamala Harris anymore, and I wonder why. Where was all of the people that was Kamala Harris bandwagoners? Where was all of the people that said that they loved her before she ever got nominated for president of the United States of America at the Democratic National Convention without a primary? Where's all of those people at? I don't see nobody. I see whispers. mention her name and Candyman JD Vance is gonna pop up. Could you imagine her standing in front of JD Vance and trying to get off a point about how good she was as vice president of the United States of America? And during her vice presidential term, JD Vance is on the ground in North Carolina, reassuring the people, helping them to understand where the resources is going to go, giving them instruction, and also reassuring them for the future?
Sir, could you talk about the impact that private citizens and groups like Samaritan's Purse have had in recovery in this storm?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. And look, there are so many layers to recovery. And unfortunately, one of the biggest complaints that I've heard today is that a lot of insurance companies who should be doing their job and should be doing right by these people are not actually stepping up, are not giving people what was promised. And when you have big gaps left by these companies, unfortunately, a lot of private citizens have to step in to fill those gaps. And that's exactly what Samaritan's Purse is doing. If you think about just the nitty gritty of this, okay, so you have this home. There's a lot of water damage. Does that water damage become really bad mold damage? What they're doing right now, Samaritan's Purse in the home that we see behind us, is that they're doing a lot of work to make sure that the mold damage doesn't become even worse than it already is, so that it maybe, God willing, that people can actually live in this home again and that we can minimize the amount of damage even further. There's a lot of just on the ground nitty-gritty work that's being done by organizations like Samaritan's Purse, by people in North Carolina. I met a guy earlier who's been doing, private pilots who are flying needed medical resources, food resources, water into this community. There are a lot of people doing a lot of good. And I take a certain inspiration, given that we are right on the cusp of the Christmas season in this country. A lot of inspiration that I think a lot of people are living out Christ's Great Commission as we enter this Christmas season. This is a Christmas season that's got a lot of grief for a lot of people, a lot of sadness for a lot of people in Western North Carolina. But I think there is going to be a lot of joy and a lot of celebration despite the sorrow, because the people of North Carolina are taking care of their own, and that's exactly as it should be. But they deserve some help, and they're going to get it from their government.
I think I just seen a future president speak again. I think I just seen a future president speak again. Lord God, protect and bless JD Vance and Donald Trump continuing to run it up. The adults is back in office.